There's this thing that I saw online about apostasy and how it's like punishable by death.
Okay.
That's like quite, as in like if you took it, it's quite puzzling in a sense that in Christianity they only did it in the medieval ages, right? They don't do it now. I'm not saying Islam does it now, but I'm just trying to ask like what is, like why? I guess that's first why, and then secondly, I know that it's not practiced, but then do people still think it now? Do people think it's still justified now?
Okay, so first I just want to like confirm something, because you mentioned Christianity. I'm not sure, are you Christian or are you...
I don't think I'm Christian, but I'm curious about religion, let's say that.
Sure, okay, all right. So when it comes to Christianity, whether it was done at medieval times or not, which is not the case by the way, because it's biblical, it's explicitly mentioned in Deuteronomy, and it's a bit even, it's a lot further than what Islam says actually, because it says if your brother, the son of your mother, if anyone tells you, if entices you to worship any other gods, then your hand should be on them, and then everyone in the community should kill them straight away, right? Islam says nothing like this, because punishments in Islam are not applied by the individual. So when you ask me about apostasy law, any punishments in Islam, there is a term for it we have, it's called hudud. Hudud is punitive laws. Punitive laws are only done and carried out by the government, the state, the Sharia state, the Muslim state. Why? That's after due process happening. That's why nobody can go and put his hand, oh, you entice me to worship other gods, so I'm going to kill you right now, right? That doesn't happen, right? So is there a law in Islam that is a law for apostasy? If someone leaves the religion of Islam, then he is punishable by death? Yes, there is, 100%. It's explicitly mentioned in our tradition, the Hadith, statements of the Prophet ﷺ, where he says, لا يحل دم امرئ مسلم إلا بثلاث. The blood of a Muslim can only be, you're allowed to take the blood of a Muslim essentially, or the life of a Muslim, with three things, right? And nafs bin nafs, if you kill a soul, then you're killed in your retribution, right? And adultery in marriage, like you cheat, of course. And at-tariku lidinihi, the one who leaves his religion and leaves the group of the Muslims. So these are the three reasons where it's allowed, right? It's mentioned explicitly in the Hadith.
Why is it allowed?
I'll come to that, no problem. I'm just first, I'm just first saying that we do believe in that, right? I'm like, because there are people who try to liberalize their own faith, right? They tell you what you want to hear. I don't tell you what you want to hear. I tell you what the religion teaches, right? No matter how people think about it today, right? So now there is a due process in Islam that takes place. Now first you ask why, what are the wisdoms? We look at the wisdom, it's very simple. If you live in an Islamic state, that punishment is only carried under an Islamic state. That's why you have people today, or you have any Muslim country today, I believe, most of them, if not all of them, do not apply this law. Because they don't carry the Sharia law. They don't follow it fully, holistically. They follow in some aspects, and some aspects they don't, right? So that's why you have apostates all over the Muslim world today, that nobody's doing anything to them. If someone apostates here, if one of the people standing with me on the table says, today I leave Islam or something, nobody can do anything to them. That's not a Sharia state. And as I said, the one who carries the punishment is the Sharia government, and it has to be in the Sharia state. Now in that Sharia state, there is a law that bounds the community, which is Sharia law. Now that person, the minute he leaves the religion of Islam, he is going to entice not only himself, he's going to break the Sharia law because he no longer believes this is God's law, but he's going to entice others to do so. So if, let's say I live in a Sharia state. Sharia state says, do not commit fornication, do not commit adultery, do not do these specific things, right? So the Sharia state are telling me, okay, I want to sleep with women. Who are you to tell me? I don't believe in your religion, right? I want to drink alcohol. What are you telling me not to drink alcohol here or not to do this? I want to do that, right? So they will create what we'll call division and separation within society. I want to deal with interest. Why interest not allowed in a Sharia state? I think it's fine. So it would become a subjective thing, and then you have one person leaving another person, a second person, enticing other people. That will eventually create a group that wants to rebel against that which they don't believe is from God. Now the question is, if someone were to leave Islam, now let's look at the application, right? Because Allah puts a lot of punishments that are not to be applied necessarily, but to be a deterrent for people. In that to be a deterrent for people, deter them from doing a specific thing. So Allah says a very strict punishment. The intention is not the punishment itself, but the intention is to deter people away from doing that act. I'll give you now an example when you look at the application of that law. Let's say we live in a Muslim state now. Me and you, we live in a Muslim state, you're a Muslim. You left Islam. How can I know you left Islam?
I told you.
Exactly. So the only way, that's the only possible way. Unless you declare and say that I have left the religion of Islam, nobody can know you left the religion of Islam. Because that's an action in the heart. You believed in something and you no longer believe in it. Nobody can know until you declare that out loud. So now that extends beyond yourself. It's no longer an individual responsibility. It extends to the people you tell. That will have an influence in them. When you start telling them,
what's wrong with freedom of speech?
I'll come to that. No problem. We don't believe in freedom of speech. I'll come to that. No problem. That's a completely different story. By the way.
Yeah,
and I'll tell you something interesting. There is no freedom of speech in the world today. Nor in England, nor in the US. It did not exist in any point of history. There's always things which are held as sacred in each society that nobody can criticize. That's always the case. Now Muslims have their own sacred things.
Right? It's
Sorry?
Extents of wish that you can exercise your freedom of speech.
Exactly. Who determines that? We say the Creator determines what a person can or cannot. Because the reason is this. There's an afterlife. Why do we exist here in a Muslim paradigm? We exist in this life to be tested. And our test is whether we will obey God or do that which is righteous, which will give us paradise, or disobey God. Now when someone starts to tell me away, take that, the most important thing away from me, which is my faith, is enticing me by telling me information, telling me maybe things which are doubts. I'm not maybe educated enough. Why don't you go to a scholar and speak to them about that? Instead of enticing
you to leave Islam?
No, I'm not saying. Yeah, sure. I'm taking that example of the person who leaves, because if we were close, if you were a family member of mine, and you came and said I left Islam, my first question is why? Then you will start giving me reasons. These reasons can also influence me as an individual, and not only yourself. So I'm talking now about that when someone leaves and says to others, it's no longer an individualistic thing. Now, under an Islamic society, someone leaves Islam. Now, hypothetically, because we're talking about application, someone leaves Islam, but they don't declare they left Islam. Okay? How can you apply punishment to them? You can't. In fact, at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there was people in the society, they were called hypocrites. They were showing as if they're believers, right? While they were disbelievers in their heart. The Prophet knew them how? Allah revealed to him a list of the hypocrites, their names. He didn't punish them.
Okay.
Do you know why he didn't punish them? Because we can only deal with people when they're apparent. Unless you say outwardly, I cannot judge your heart. Unless you say apparently in the community or society by creating division, I've left Islam, this religion is wrong, whatever it is.
Why is division punishable by death?
I'm not saying division is punishable by death. I'm saying leaving Islam is that which is punishable by death. But I'm still telling you the application step by step. We're not done. You gotta be patient with me. It takes time, right? So a person now, I'm giving you different scenarios. I'm saying under an Islamic state, if someone is worried about punishment, as you say, if they kept to themselves that they left Islam, nothing will happen to them, is what I'm trying to tell you, right? So I'm giving you the different means of application. The problem now is when they start outwardly publicly publicizing it. Now, okay, now you're publicly publicizing you left Islam. Do the government just takes you and kills you? No, that's not what happens. There is a process of bringing you called istitaba, seeking repentance of the individual. And that period can be minimum 3 days and can extend to more, 20 days, 30 days, does not matter. You bring the person, that's what we're going through. You bring that person and then you speak to them. Okay, you left Islam. What are the reasons that you left Islam? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, here is the responses, rational responses, etc., evidences, this and that. Someone says, no, I don't care. I'm going to leave Islam. But say, okay, there is a law in this land that you're living in, which is a Sharia state. If you leave Islam, publicly publicize it, that is punishable by death. It's as simple as that. We cannot play games with the commands of the Creator. My question to you is this now. How do you determine what is good or bad? Now, you are thinking about this, you're thinking about it from an emotional point of view.
I'm not thinking about it from an emotional point of view.
Which point of view are you thinking about it then?
So, I think we should respect other people for their faith.
Why?
Because you and we are created equal, right?
So who says that?
I'm not. I don't.
Okay, what I'm doing with you right now is bringing you to the core of the point. When it comes to moral laws or moral judgments, you have to have an objective standard. For instance, for Muslims,
it doesn't have to be. I'm sorry to say this, and I don't know if it offends you, but it doesn't.
Don't worry, I'm not going to be offended. Yes.
Yeah, right, but it doesn't have to be Islam. And when someone,
I didn't say. I'm not saying it is. I'm asking you, what is that moral? Look, objective standard by definition has to come from God. If it comes from a human,
said that.
I'll tell you why. If it comes from individuals, it's subjective. The reason it's subjective is because it's based on limited intellect.
From humans. You don't know that.
Okay, but then we have to speak now about existence of God. That's a completely different topic, right? If you want to talk about a rationalistic paradigm, I'm saying without God, we all as humans end up with subjective morality. That's the response. Why? It's subjective because our limited intellect, limited knowledge, limited experience makes it subjective by definition. The reason God's morality is objective is because what people call God is all-knowing entity, all-powerful entity, all-wise.
Yeah, but why?
So,
what makes it so that like your set of rules, you think that your interpretation of the commands is God's commands? You don't know that, right?
it's none of this is about interpretation. What I told you is strictly what God said. So the Prophet applied these punishments himself. He set out what is to do in this situation, what is to do in that situation. When I give you things, it was never my interpretation. For instance, when I told you about the hypocrites, I give a practical example in the life of the Prophet. When I told you about the punishment of death, I told you the statement of the Prophet, the 3 types of people that you can take the blood of a Muslim essentially with, right? So I'm not giving you my interpretation here. I'm giving you the divine revelation of Allah. Now,
yeah, but you assume that the divine revelation of Allah is transmitted by the angel Gabriel in a
I don't assume that, no. I know that.
It is an assumption.
It's not an assumption.
Well, for someone who's outside of the faith, it is an assumption.
No, you can ask me, why do you believe that this is... Then we can give, but what happened is, look, you came and you asked me a question from an Islamic paradigm. Then you have to accept the Islamic paradigm is true if you want me to give you... No, if you want me to give you an Islamic answer.
Right.
Now, if you don't want me to give you an Islamic answer, then the question should be more foundational. First, I don't know if you believe in God or not. That should be the start. Is there a God or is there no God?
I don't know.
Okay, sure. So this is where we start. We don't start with the punishment of adultery, right? Because you said to me in the beginning, I don't know, you said interested in Islam or curious about. So I assumed you were already there, believing in God, close.
It's complicated.
Yeah,
it's very complicated.
That's why I'm saying I didn't start from the foundation for that reason. But generally, if someone just comes to me, that's why I asked you, are you Christian or this or that? You said no. So look, let's start with God's existence first then.
Okay.
Once God's existence is established, then whatever God says is morally right and wrong. Doesn't matter.
No. When God exists, whether God exists or not is one topic, right?
Yeah.
And then you go on to another topic of like,
Islam true or not?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like either is this religion true or that religion true?
Yes.
None of them is true.
Yes.
But there is a God, and
Sure.
it's still yet to be defined.
Yeah.
It's yet to be known.
I agree with you.
Different matter.
I agree with you. But I'm saying if God exists, whatever God says, I'm saying now wherever God says it, right, is objective morality by definition.
Yeah, if you can prove that is what God says.
Yes, I'm trying to come to that, right? So if God exists, whatever God says, that entity says it's objectively moral, right? My feelings, my rationality, whatever is irrelevant, because I'm not the one who can determine that. The one who created us knows about us more. Now, we look at the existence of the Creator. I'll ask you a simple question. Can something come from nothing?
Yeah, I know that, though, and like causality, right? Like everything.
I didn't say causality. I just asked a simple question.
I know the arguments that you're about to
I was not making the Kalam Cosmological argument, actually.
I assume that I know the arguments that
Sure, I was not making the Kalam Cosmological argument, but it's fine. It's alright.
Anyways, you're trying to say like everything is created from something, and every cause leads back.
No. That's not what I'm saying. That's an argument, but that's not the argument I'm making. My argument is more basic. I was asking, can something come from absolute nothingness? 0 plus 0 plus 0 equals what?
I guess not.
No, in reality it's impossible because nothingness is the absence of everything and anything, okay? And if nothingness is the absence of everything and anything, then the absence of something does not bring about something, okay? So, if there was ever nothingness, we cannot exist today.
Yeah.
No, but there is a universe right now.
Yeah.
Now that universe has a starting point, has the Big Bang, or every term you want to give to it. Now that cannot come by itself. The energy, matter, those compressed into singularity needs to have a source. needs to have something external for itself that brings it into existence. Now you can add on top of it the causal aspect that causes it to expand and have the laws that we have in the universe today, that you can add to it. But the more foundational thing is that you cannot have the energy and matter or the universe or anything at all, except if there was something that brought it into existence. And you cannot keep having things that bring things into existence. There has to be something always existing. Why? I'll explain, no problem. I'll bring you, but slower. Basically, whatever brought the energy and matter into existence cannot also keep having other things that brings it into existence, because that will not have a starting point. So, I'll give you a basic example. You want to take a book from me, over here. But in order for me to give you the book, I'm giving you a hypothetical. In order for me to give you a book, I need permission from him. He needs permission from him. Ad infinitum. You will never take the book, because the permission will never be given. There has to be a starting point, someone that doesn't require permission, that gives the permission to others. Similarly with creation. You cannot have created things. It has to be something uncreated that starts the cycle of created things. So that is what we call the creator. Whatever that started the energy and matter, put it into existence, created it, and all of that. And if it did that, when you look at the universe itself, whatever attributes it displays is the attributes of the creator. You cannot create this universe without ultimate power. You cannot create it without ultimate knowledge. Every atom here has energy so magnificent that if you split it, you have a nuclear explosion. The amount of laws and complications in the universe, the amount of knowledge you need to have is unimaginable. You start time-space continuum, what they call time-space continuum. So you're not bound by past, present, future the way we are. You're not bound by the physical aspects of space the way we are. So you're not like something like this table or like this building or any of that. And you brought the universe into existence. So that's what people call God.
Right, but then what makes you think that the Quran is the divine word?
Okay, so we're done with step one. Yeah, we move to step two, okay? Now step two. We said these are the attributes of the Creator. We say anyone can claim that this religion is from God. Now what you need is a form of objective evidence. The objective evidence that Muslims have is that evidence has to be something that other humans cannot do. So we can say it's from the Creator, something that the Creator can do, the humans cannot do. One of these examples I'll ask you, do humans know the future in detail? What will happen in the future?
No, but you can make calculated judgments about it.
You can make assumptions, right? You can make assumptions based on knowledge and experience in certain fields. You cannot do that tens of times and always be accurate and correct about every different field that you're not an expert in. That's not possible. So assumptions, some of them are accurate and some of them are false. So can you make tens of claims, prophecies about the future, say this is from God, specific prophecies, some of them are time bound, some of them are people bound, individual bound, and everything you say happens the way you say it will happen. Is that possible?
It's not possible.
Okay, sure. So, no, it is not possible because we are bound by the time-space continuum that I was telling you about. So we're bound by time, past, present, and future. We cannot access the future. We have to be in the present, and the present then goes into the future, right? So, we have Prophet Muhammad doing that, prophecies of the future, making tens of them. For instance, I'll give you some examples, right? Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, you will see the barefoot Bedouin Arabs. Bedouins are those who live in the desert, tents, they don't have buildings, all of that, right? He said, you will see the barefoot Bedouin Arabs competing in building the tallest buildings. Where's the tallest building in the world today? Burj Khalifa in Dubai, by the way, is the tallest building in the world today. Who's competing with them is Saudi Arabia, another Arab nation. You have Kuwait also building a very tall building. You have these Arab nations building. 50 years ago, these Arab nations were deserts. What changed? Do you know what changed? Oil. The Prophet said the earth will puke its treasures and money will become abundant within these Arabs. And then he also said what I told you is that they will be building tall buildings. Now the Arabs throughout history were not known to build tall buildings. They were not known of that as a civilization. In fact, they make holes in the floor and hide from the heat. So in, not up, yeah? You had the Romans and Persians building. You never had the Arabs doing that. But the Prophet said that 1,400 years ago, and it's actualizing today. The Prophet said you will see the deserts of Arabia becoming meadows and rivers again. So be green and rivers. And he says again. What does again mean?
Like it was before.
It was before. So he's making two claims. Now you open Nature, Middle East. Nature, you know Nature magazine, right? one of the biggest scientific magazines in the world, right? So I'm just making sure you do, right? So Nature Middle East, they have a research called the greenery of the deserts of Arabia, or greening of the deserts. Oh, sorry, no, that's the NASA one. They talk about the history of the deserts of Arabia, and they show you how there is fossils of animals like elephants and whales or whatever it is that can only live if there is an excess amount of water there. Cannot live in this region otherwise. They show you traces with satellites of 10,000 Asian lakes. So that information Prophet could not have known. He's not going to study fossils and have satellites telling him about 10,000 Asian lakes. So he's making a claim about the distance past, but also the future. NASA has this article called The Greenery of the Deserts of Arabia. And they show you how it was yellow and how it's turning green. The Prophet named the countries that Islam would spread to, and that happened after his death. The countries that Islam will enter in and will become Muslim. He named Sham, which includes today Yemen, includes Jordan, includes Palestine, Syria. He named India and Pakistan. He named Turkey, Constantinople, which is present-day Turkey. He named Egypt. He named Iraq.
He named Constantinople.
Yes.
But then why is not like, I assume Constantinople would also encompass like the Eastern Roman Empire, right? But then the countries within the Eastern Roman Empire, not all.
No, Constantinople was conquered open by the Muslims anyways, but you had,
by the Muslims,
yes, including Levant, they were under Roman and Persian rule as well.
Yeah.
And that's why the Prophet said, not only did he name these countries, he said that the Muslims will defeat the Roman and Persian Empire, and the Persian king in that region, in that Levant region, and the Roman king, when they die, they're not going to be another Roman or Persian king in that region. And that's what historically happened.
Okay.
So he didn't only, and by the way, these were Arabs, small Arabs. We're talking about the two biggest empires, nations at the time. It's like me, a bunch of Eskimos telling you about Russia and USA.
Like, rather not, like, I think...
Tell me, I think a lot of people have a misconception. They think about Islam after the Prophet, not before. The time of when the Prophet was alive, Muslims were not a big civilization or nation. When you think about Ottoman Empire, that is way, way later on.
Yeah, I know that. It's just
yes.
I'm just not convinced of it. I'm going to tell you the background.
You're not convinced of what? Tell me.
A lot of things, right? Like, why am I here? Because I met a Muslim guy, and then he told me he cannot marry even a Christian woman. He has to marry a Muslim. And then
you should have told me from the beginning.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Sorry.
No, it's alright. It's okay.
Sorry.
Yes.
But, like, basically, that's what happened. And then I started researching Islam.
Yes.
And then there are a lot of things that I found that are beneficial, right?
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I'm not going to recount it here.
Sure. That's fine. That's fine. That's, of course there is.
Everything.
Yeah, of course.
But there are things within the religion that I find to be very puzzling. So
okay.
Apostasy would be one. Violent jihad would be one.
Okay.
Halal food would be one. Whether it has like, there's another one. Sorry, let me give me a sec. Oh yeah, dresses for women would be one.
Okay,
sorry,
sure.
It's just
sure.
That's
fine. I'm listening.
Culture so much.
Yes.
That I just can't. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Before we do any of that, okay, you mentioned your background. You made this Muslim person. That's irrelevant to the point I'm about to make. The reason I was presenting you these things, that's one example of evidences for Islam. There are many more.
Yeah.
The reason I'm presenting you that is when I tell you these are objective moral teachings, the ones I was telling you, the responses to the questions, that it's no longer based then on me. I need to convince someone necessarily using rationality of every aspect of the teachings of Islam. That burden has been lifted off me the minute I've proved this was from God. If I don't have evidence this is from God, then maybe I need to rationally, because it's a rational idea then you have your rationality, I have mine, and I try to convince you rationally. But humans' rationality is limited. And humans' acceptance of ideas is different. Like I've presented the same idea to multiple different people. Many people accepted it. Some people have an issue with it. So that's why morality is not based on our personal subjective experience. I said to you, that apostasy law, I see no issues with it. And I'll tell you why. Because the only person who can be punished with that law is the person who wants to be punished by that law. How is that you have to publicly go outside and say that I've left Islam. Not only that, is when that period I told you of repentance happens, you can pretend and say, oh, okay, I came back to Islam, and live your life as a non-Muslim, no problem. Pretending as if...
What if I don't want to? What if I still say
again, so that's what I'm saying. Okay, so that's arrogance.
What if I hurt
No, you are hurting someone by publicizing the idea. You publicize the idea.
Ideas are free. That's the only thing that you have. Do you understand?
No, I disagree.
Ideas are the only things that we have.
Sure, I'm disagreeing with you. I'm saying to you, the minute we've established something to be divine law, then any ideas other than that divine law is by default something opposing something which is good. Now, if I don't have evidence that this is divine law and this is truly not from God, then I agree with you. Then there's just ideas. You're coming from a subjective paradigm. Is that ideas are just things that humans make up. Meaning, you know what?
I don't think my culture is a subjective paradigm.
I don't know what your culture is. I mean in general. Sorry?
I'm Chinese.
Okay, I mean in general, right? I mean in general.
Yeah.
You think, okay, someone has an idea, someone has an also an idea, everyone has a right to his ideas. I'm not talking about humans here. I'm saying these are commands of God. And then there is a human opposing the command of God, which is harm by default because they're going against that which is guidance for mankind. God knows what is good and harmful for the society. And based on that we follow it.
Away from people, but takes.
No, it doesn't.
It does. It takes agency away from you, and then.
How does it take agency away?
Because you never be able. Sorry to say this, but I feel like you would never be able to think for yourself, right? Like that's the issue that I have. I think for a Chinese person, it's the last thing you would say. In China, can you criticize? I'm responding now. Can you criticize the government in China and talk about? I'm not. I'm saying can you? I'm saying can you? Okay, thank you. So you just proving my point. So under any civilization. I'm not saying the Chinese society is great, right?
Okay. So you're criticizing the Chinese. No, I'm not trying to get you in trouble. I'm not trying to get you in trouble. I'm saying something very simple. Look, if whatever idea it is, there will always be an idea that humans replace, that they will hold high to, and they will punish people for going against. You have treason laws now against the state that is punishable by death. You agree or disagree is irrelevant, but they say, okay, this is the highest sin you could make. Is you make a treason against the state, we will kill you. Okay, I don't care. Like for us, is the highest treason is to go against the one who created you once you were a Muslim and have an influence on your society by publicizing it. Now, who determines what is the highest sin is the Creator. It's not, you go to any society and culture, as I said to you, there will be that thing. Whatever that thing is, it will either be man-made or from God.
Yeah, but
as I said, that punishment is only on you. You live in a Muslim state. If you live in a Muslim state, in a Sharia state, you have to abide by its law. You don't necessarily agree with every law here. I don't necessarily agree.
But I don't live in a...
No, I'm saying here in the UK. I'm saying here in the UK.
No, I don't agree with that.
But you still have to follow them.
I do have to
because you live here.
The extent of freedom that it allows is much bigger than the extent of freedom.
I disagree. No, I completely disagree. Like for instance, America, which you call beacon of civilization, where land of freedom and all of this garbage, they just are passing laws that if you say anti-Semitism is you go to prison if you talk about the.
I'm not saying anyone's perfect, right?
No, sure. Here they'll talk to you about LGBT. You'll be kicked and fired out of your job if you talk about LGBTQ in a way that they don't want to hear. Okay, sure. So whichever society you bring me, I'll show you these ideas to claim these are their gods. This is the liberal God. The liberal God is the LGBT. I
don't think they claimed it to be God.
It's not about claiming. It's about how they treat it. For me, the idea that you hold the most high, that nobody should criticize or can criticize, is your God in that sense. You don't have to say God meaning it created the universe. It doesn't have to be that.
Yeah, right.
It's a God in a different sense.
Yeah, so, but it's open to criticism, right? It's open to change.
It's not open to criticism, that's what I was saying. If you criticize anti-Semitism, you go to prison. Criticize LGBTQ, you get fired. It's not open to criticism. If you criticize Chinese government, God knows what's going to happen to you.
I know, but
so fired, it's not.
Getting fired is not the same with getting killed, right? It's different.
Again, you're removing that aspect. The only time you're actually punished and killed is where you want to. You're gonna arrogantly say, "I'll die for my idea. I don't care. I want to go out and tell people I left Islam." Okay, so you live under the state. They told you, "Look, here is the law. You wanna keep it to yourself? Keep it to yourself." But under our state, you cannot do X, Y, and Z, or it's punishable by X, Y, and Z. And we'll give you a chance. We'll give you a repentance period.
What if I just don't want to? What if I just don't?
You want to die? So the person wants to die.
I want to be honest to myself then.
No, honestly, leave the Sharia state, go somewhere else. Why are you living under a Sharia government?
Well, what if I'm not able to?
No, there is states. I believe until the end of times, this is what Muslims believe. There will be Christians, there will be Muslims, there will be Jews. Because Muslims...
Not anyone secular, no.
Sorry?
Not anyone.
No, atheists exist, of course. So atheists exist as well. But the point I'm trying to make is that there's different societies,
Muslims,
right?
Muslims, Christians, Jews, and everyone else.
I didn't say that, by the way, yeah? I wouldn't even put Christians above Jews, but that's a different story, right? Anyways, coming back to what we were saying. Look, In Islam, in the end of times, you will have Muslims aligning with Christians, fighting a common enemy. So that means until the end of times, there's other civilizations, other countries, other. If you don't want to follow the laws, you don't like them, you're welcome to go to another state, which is a Christian state, or whatever, which by the way, if it's a Christian state, has the same law, even worse. And I was telling you about that in Deuteronomy.
There is no
if it is Jewish
state by definition.
That's what I'm saying. If there is a Christian state, then there is a worse law that is waiting for you. If there is a Jewish, Deuteronomy is the same for Jews and Christians.
Right.
There is a worse law that is waiting for you. So if you're an atheist and you want to have your own morality of not criticizing LGBTQ or treason against the state means death or whatever other things, it's up to you. But under an Islamic Sharia state, it's a divine state, divine law, this is the law. Someone can tell me, I want to die, you know what, I'm going to be honest to myself, so I'm going to die. I say, okay, it's up to you, bro. You want to die, you can die. But there is a way for you not to die. So it's a choice. So the agency that you were talking about is not taken away from the individual.
It is completely taken away.
It's not taken away. Because the person can avoid being killed if he wanted to, even though he left
Islam.
Islam.
I sacrifice whatever I believe in to be true, right?
Where's the sacrifice? You just keep it to yourself.
I would sacrifice it.
Well, how do you sacrifice it?
Because I'm not practicing what I believe in.
No,
what you believe in.
No, you will be
pray 5
practicing.
times a day.
No, I disagree with you. You will be practicing what you believe in. You're not going to be praying 5 times a day. So you've left Islam now in the Sharia state. You practice whatever you want to practice.
Presumably, like I'm still within a culture that does that, right? So everyone around me will be keeping Ramadan, will be praying.
So what?
And then I don't want to do that.
What do you want then?
I don't know.
See, leave the society. Living in a society.
Okay.
Like you see, you're not making a rationality, rational point here. Look, this is.
What if I just want to publicize it then, right? Like, what if I believe?
Okay, then you want to break the law, and there is a punishment for breaking the law. It's as simple as that. I'm telling you, it's a choice. If nobody's going to force you to practice Islam. That's the thing. You want to leave and keep it to yourself. Leave and keep it to yourself. Do whatever you want to do. You want to, change your gender and become a potato. That's not our business, right? People can do that if they want to do that. But we're saying under the Islamic state, under that Sharia state, it's a very simple thing.
Okay.
There is laws. Allah knows what is harmful and beneficial for society. We see the example of that today. Now, that is the last thing I'm going to mention on this point. We see the example of that today. There are people who left Islam left, right, and center, and now it's a career for them. They title themselves ex-Muslims. They go on social media platforms talking evil about Islam, about the Prophet of Islam, trying to bring stuff to make Muslims leave Islam. It's not about, freedom of ideas. It's about them hating the idea of Islam, the religion itself, and then trying to get as many people away from it as they can. Now, Allah knows how people are and how the human... Now, they're living in a state where there's no punishment. So they ask people, donate for me because I'm fearing for my life. I'm talking against Islam, moving people away from Islam, so donate for me. And you have these tens of these channels online.
Yeah.
Now, Islam will not allow that, which will keep people in harmony as a society. You're not going to have a son one day say, father, I'm going to go and become a potato and change my gender. And then he has to speak to him, where is this coming from? I was watching this atheist social media. That happens today, by the way.
Yeah.
This happens in this day and age. Now, that is not going to happen in an Islamic state because Islam harmonizes by keeping that harmony in society. You want to disbelieve yourself, follow your life and die and then be punished in the hereafter because Islam is the truth. And I was given reasons for why it is. So either way, you're not running away from the punishment. Whether you're punished in this life or you're punished in the afterlife, but you say Islam is not true. So die and find out. There are evidences that shows.
I'll find out.
No, I'm not telling you. But
no, but like...
you've not left Islam, so I'm not telling you. But the thing is, what I've presented to you, was it rational evidences to show that Prophet Muhammad is the messenger of God or not? Or is it my personal opinion? It was not my personal opinion. It was one example.
That is your opinion.
Why is my opinion?
It is your opinion that is not your personal opinion that...
Okay, that makes no sense. But all right. Okay, why is the other things that you mentioned so we can just briefly deal with them? You said apostasy, what else?
No, I think it's fine.
Okay, all right.
I just wanted to raise the apostasy point.
That's fine. That's all right, no problem.
What's your name?
My name is Muhammed, like the Prophet.
Okay.
Yes. It was nice meeting you.
Thank you very much.
No problem. And don't worry about that guy,
Don't worry.
Yeah, don't worry about that guy at all, inshallah. It's not an important thing. I think what's important is that you worry about yourself, about your afterlife. And as I said, don't take things from
Actually, no. Like,
sorry?
We don't really believe in an afterlife. I've been raised secularly.
But that's what I was telling you. It's not about what subjectively we believe in. It's about what is true and what is false.
Yeah.
And that should be evidence-based.
Yeah, and I'm most worried about how I should live this life rather than what happens in the next.
Sure, but how you live in this life determines what happens in the afterlife.
I don't know that. You need to prove that.
Sure. And
nobody can prove
No,
that because nobody has lived in the afterlife.
Sure. But that means you're closing your mind, because when I was giving you evidences, we went into a completely different thing, which was that man who's a Muslim. Thing is, I've given you the evidence that I can give more, but you're not open to it to begin with, right? So you should. I think you should ask. No. No, that's fine. I think you should ask yourself. It's between you and yourself. Is it that there is no evidence, or is it that you're not willing to look at the evidence? All right. Nice talking to you. Anyways, it's a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you very much.
No problem. If you have any questions again, you're welcome to come back. All right.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you. Bye bye.